How to Find Happiness, a life-changing motivational story. Have you ever felt like life was unfair? Like no matter how hard you try, happiness keeps slipping through your fingers? What if I told you that sometimes the biggest failures in life lead to the greatest happiness? This is the story of two men, John and Michael, who thought they had lost everything. But what happened next changed their lives forever. Let's dive into their story. John and Michael had been friends since childhood. They grew up in the same neighborhood, played together, and even dreamed together. But as they got older, life took them on different paths. John was a hard-working man. He had a wife and a little daughter whom he loved more than anything. He worked long hours at a company, hoping for a promotion that never came. No matter how hard he tried, he was overlooked. Every time he thought he was close to success, something went wrong. Why does life always do this to me, he thought. One day after years of dedication, he was fired. Just like that. All his hard work, gone in an instant. On the other hand, Michael was a passionate musician. He played the piano like magic, and music was his life. People loved his performances, and he dreamed of one day playing on the biggest stages in the world. But one night, after finishing a performance, tragedy struck. He was in a car accident. When he woke up in the hospital, the doctor looked at him and said, "Michael, I'm sorry, but your hand, they'll never fully recover." His fingers were damaged. Playing the piano the way he used to was impossible. His heart sank. If I can't play, who am I? Both John and Michael felt like their lives had ended. Have you ever felt that way? Like everything you worked for was taken away in an instant? But little did they know, this was just the beginning of something much greater. After losing his job, John fell into depression. He spent his days sitting at home, drowning in self-doubt. One evening, as he sat alone on a park bench, an old man sat next to him. He had kind eyes and a peaceful smile. Seeing John's sad face, the old man asked, "What's troubling you, son?" John sighed. "I lost my job. I worked so hard, but in the end, it was all for nothing." The old man chuckled. "Nothing? Are you sure about that?" John looked at him, confused. The old man continued, "Let me tell you a story. A farmer once lost his only horse. His neighbor said, 'That's terrible.' The farmer simply said, 'Maybe.' A few days later, the horse returned, bringing wild horses with it. The neighbor said, 'That's great.' The farmer said, 'Maybe.' Then the farmer's son broke his leg while trying to train one of the wild horses. The neighbor said, 'Well, that's horrible.' The farmer said, 'Maybe.' A week later, soldiers came to take young men for war, but because of his broken leg, the farmer's son was spared. The neighbor said, 'That's wonderful.' And the farmer simply said, 'Maybe.' The old man smiled. "You see, son, what seems like a curse today might be a blessing tomorrow." John listened carefully. The old man patted his shoulder. "Instead of asking, 'Why did this happen to me?' start asking, 'What can I learn from this?'" John went home and thought about those words. Instead of feeling like a failure, he started reflecting on his skills. He always dreamed of starting his own business, but never had the time. Now, he had time. So instead of drowning in sadness, he took a leap of faith. He started small, using his savings to open a little shop. It was tough at first, but John had learned from his past mistakes. He put his heart into it, and slowly the business grew. For the first time in years, he felt free. Meanwhile, Michael was struggling. He refused to even look at a piano. He stayed locked in his room, convinced that his life was over. One day, while walking through town, he heard a child playing a small keyboard. The notes were messy, off-key, but there was something special about them. The boy looked up and smiled. "I wish I could play like you, Mr. Michael, but I can't see the keys." Michael's heart skipped a beat. "You're blind?" The boy nodded. "Yeah, but I love music. I just don't know how to play it right." Michael felt something stir inside him. If he couldn't play, maybe he could teach. The next day, he went back and started teaching the boy, slowly, carefully, using sound and touch instead of sight. Word spread, and soon more children came. Kids who were blind, kids who couldn't afford lessons, kids who had given up on their own dreams. And Michael? He found a new passion. He realized that happiness wasn't just about playing music, it was about sharing it. Months passed. John's business flourished. He was no longer a stressed-out employee. He was a successful entrepreneur, spending time with his family and living life on his own terms. Michael became one of the most beloved music teachers in town. Though he no longer played on big stages, he created